So I have a bit of explaining to do, and right now we are sitting in enemy territory at the Nissan dealer with my new manual transmission Toyota Supra. So you guys have seen hopefully the previous videos, of course collection day, and then the fact that I made a whole video saying that I canceled the Nissan Z and had something else, which of course is the manual Supra. Today's video, we're gonna really deep dive into exactly why I decided to cancel the Z and then buy the manual Toyota Supra. For the last 18 months, I've really been hyping up buying the new Z to replace my old 2020 Toyota Supra. Sold that about 18 months ago, and that was right when the Z got unveiled, and I was super pumped to buy it. However, obviously, I ended up canceling that, and now I'm in the manual Toyota Supra. So before we get into the video, we're gonna play some clips that I filmed when I did get to drive the new Z, where I compared a lot of it to the Supra to kind of touch base with what I've said a lot of when driving the car, comparing it with the Supra, and my honest thoughts between the two cars. The Supra is one of the absolute best cars you can absolutely buy, and my overall plan, of course, buying the Z Performance, then into the Nismo Z, and then I do want to get a manual Supra, honestly. Not my favorite seats. Certainly looking forward to the buckets. The Supra starts off really good. It has more character with the exhaust, the better suspension and steering setup. It's $6 grand more, of course, so you are paying for that. Probably is one of the best performance cars for the money. I love how precise this car is. It is a really, really top-notch sports car. But at the end of the day, it really is the budget version of the Supra. The Supra is just top-notch, top tier for what it is in this price range. I think at the end of the day, the Nissan Z is basically a cheaper budget version of the Toyota Supra. So to get those clips out of the way, obviously a lot of things that I've said in the past are basically the reasons now. Bottom line is the reason why I canceled the Z, it's just too soft. And when I look at my own past with the 370Zs that I own, I had a red Sport Touring and then the white Nismo. This whole idea about buying a manual sports car after I sold my white Supra, basically I was trying to replace the Nismo Z. It kind of took me a minute to truly realize that, but the Nismo Z was the last manual car I owned. That was about 5 years ago. So what I really wanted to do was replace that experience. A very good handling, tight car to where there was nothing I wanted more out of the car. As you've seen, when I drive the Z Performance, there are so many aspects that I know Nissan is leaving out because it's gonna be in the Nismo. And the Supra, on the other hand, there is nothing about this car that needs to be improved. From the factory, the Supra is one of the best cars money can buy. It checks all of the boxes. It is so good in the turns. It handles insane. It's so rigid. The power is plentiful. It is just such a well-rounded performance car. When you drive this, there is a wow factor. It is a wow kind of car to where it leaves a lasting impression of this is a serious sports car. The Z Performance is kind of more of a GT sporty car type of vehicle. It's a solid platform, not gonna lie. It's got more space, more practicality than the Supra. However, it sacrifices that crazy tight chassis, the insane handling, and just that character that a Supra has and that a future Nismo is gonna have, to where basically this is the replacement to my Nismo 370Z. This is the best alternative looking back at my old car. And to be quite honest, if I had the choice to buy my old Nismo 370Z or the new Nissan Z Performance, I would buy my old Nismo. The bucket seats are way better than what you get in the normal Z. While it's slower and doesn't have as much tech, I don't really care about those two aspects. I want an experience, something that handles insane, and the rigidity in the old Nismo was just fantastic. So to me, the old Nismo is better than the new Performance because the new Performance is basically the same trim as the old Sport Touring. So I wanted to hold out for the Nismo edition, and in the meantime, the Supra is the best alternative to get a really performance-focused manual sports car. Now, I talked a lot in all my videos comparing the Supra versus the Z, how this is a $6,000 more expensive car. So you would expect it to be better. And it all makes sense. The price difference, this is $61 out the door. The Z, with all the same options fully loaded, is gonna be around $55 out the door. Now, $6 grand is a lot of money. I'm not trying to say that that's nothing. It's a good chunk of money. However, when I look at the benefits, kind of the cost benefit, versus the two cars, it's so well worth the extra $6 grand. I'm not trying to bash the Z at all. It's just, this car has the suspension and chassis rigidity to where it handles insane. The car feels so well put together, so incredibly solid. And I said a lot of times where this car in normal mode feels like the normal Z. Honestly, this car in normal mode handles better than the Z. So when you do crank it up a notch and go into sport mode, this thing just turns into a performance machine. Also, when you drive it, the refinements are just insane. It's a very, very nice place to be. It feels like a $60,000 car. The Z, being it's built by Nissan, 100% Nissan, it feels like a Nissan on the interior, which again, it's not a bad thing. However, because of the BMW intervention with the Supra, it feels premium. Now, had Toyota just built this car by themselves, this would feel the same as the Z, and honestly, they would be same price, exact same cars, just different brands, quite honestly. But because there's the BMW in the Supra, it makes it such a step up to where when I look at my Nissan GTR, this car is hot on the heels of a GTR as far as the fun factor. The Z is far behind. And I think the price that would have got me to buy it, I think if they were $15,000 difference, I would have bought the Z. Because for 60 grand, this feels like a $60,000 car. I have no complaints with the price. At 55 grand though, the Z just felt like it was missing so much. And I know obviously they're holding back so many things for the Nismo. Now, if the Z was $45,000, I would have bought the Z, because I think at 45 grand, that would have been a heck of a bang for the buck. You're getting 15 grand cheaper for just a step below. So if you're looking for more of a GT car to where you're just gonna be driving it, not going too crazy in the performance driving, you just want a nice all-around car, might as well save the 6 grand and get the Z. But if you want a car where you're gonna take it to the mountains or the track and actually rip on the car and truly use every single bit of its performance, this car is just such a step up. It's very well worth the money. So basically the 6 grand just wasn't enough to sway me to go with the cheaper option, because everything you get in this, it's worth way more than 6 grand, I think. It just gives you everything that a fun sports car has to offer, and there's nothing about this car that makes me want more out of it. And I hope the Nismo one-ups the Supra. This car is such a benchmark, such a solid platform. People who still hate on it, you don't know what you're missing out on. This is one of the best sports cars, absolutely, and I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to get one at sticker. I just couldn't say no to that deal. I just couldn't do it. This car has everything I need, and I think it's gonna be a much more fun platform to film for the next year. And when the Nismo's out, we'll see. Hopefully it's a better car. Hopefully they take this car's performance and up it a little bit. And I wanna see some sacrifices to the practicality, the GT cruising stuff to be a performance car. I don't want a car that's all about just being a comfortable, normal car. I want a performance machine that's built to be on the track. That's what I hope the Nismo is. And I think the Supra manual is just a really good blend. It's a better GT car, honestly, than the Z. And yet, when you do it in sport mode and stuff, it is so much better in handling and tightness and refinements. It's a huge step up. And at the end of the day, the 6 grand just wasn't enough to sway me, and this car just checked all the boxes. Now, there was also another thing that I kind of started thinking about once I bought this car. Now, a lot of this is speculation, but looking at values of the cars, so a little bit different than the actual purchase price, but I feel like the value of the manual Supra is actually going to be higher in the long run. You know, if I look at my Nismo 370Z, I sold that car for $29,000, trading it in for the GTR. 5 years later, if I still had that Nismo, I could sell it for $35,000. So the Nismo Z holds really, really good value. My sport touring model, I sold that for like 20 grand whenever I sold that, and it's probably a $15,000 car today. So the Nismo Z is a valuable car that holds a lot of money. If you look at the 350Zs, same thing, they go for good money. The normal Zs, not all too expensive, not all too crazy. When I look at the manual Supra, now of course today's crazy market is pretty ridiculous. This car, a lot of people are buying them for sticker. There's a lot of dealers trying to get 80 to 100 grand for these, of course. However, on the used market, a manual Supra is going for closer to $70,000. When you look at the Zs, the dealers went crazy with the Proto Spec, which was last year at this point. You know, a lot of them were selling for like 80 grand. The Z Performance, the Z Sport, there is no way, I don't think anybody's gonna pay over sticker for that car. I do not see that happening one bit. And on the used market, when the sports and performances flood the market and become a normal car out there on the used market, I don't see them going for more than MSRP, and honestly, they're probably gonna go for a little bit less because Nissan's probably gonna build a ton more Zs than Toyota's doing with the Supra. So the more I thought about that, I think in the long run, or the short run for me in a year, if I end up selling whichever car I would have bought in a year from now, I think I'll actually lose less money owning this car and probably make some money owning this car. And when I actually look at purchasing the cars, well, again, 6 grand is still a lot of money and everything, I chose to finance this car. I put $15,000 down, and no matter which car I bought, I was gonna do 15 down and pay $1,000 a month. The payment on this is less than 800 bucks. The Z would have been like 750. So the payment wise, it would have been a little less. I still was gonna do $1,000 a month on either car. So technically, the only difference I see is my debt is a little bit more on this car, which means I'll pay a little bit more in interest if I were to go the whole length of the loan, which obviously I'm not. So honestly, the price didn't really make a difference because I was still putting 15 down regardless of the car. I was still gonna just do $1,000 a month regardless of the car. So I didn't actually see that $6,000. I just have a little bit more debt to my name, which this is my only debt, so it's not really a big deal. And when I look at the values, if in a year from now I sell this car for realistically $65,000, which if the market stays the same, that is a very plausible situation. The Z, if I bought that right now for 55 out the door, in the same market, it'd probably be worth like 50 grand. So I would actually spend more money owning that car to where it would be more expensive than this by a long shot. And yet owning this is a more enjoyable car, more fun factor car. So that kind of weighed on me a little bit too, to where Nissan's going to pump out the Zs. It's not going to be some special car. This is the special Supra. And when the Nismo comes out, that's going to be the special Z that's going to probably hold value very well and do something pretty nice. So that kind of weighed on my decision too, because it's not really the purchase price you need to worry about when buying something. It's about, are you going to end up spending money or making money? My Nissan GT-R was an expensive car when I bought it. If I sold it today, it's worth 15 grand more than what I bought it for. So honestly, owning the GT-R for 5 years is a lot cheaper than someone who bought a $30,000 Kia Optima or something like that. They're going to lose pretty much all their value in 5 years, where that car appreciated quite a bit. So I feel like the Supra manual is kind of in a similar boat to where this car is going to hold better value and just be a better purchase. So that's kind of everything I thought about with the two cars. The main factor was, this is a wow factor car. This is a car, I mean, this is just an insane benchmark. The Z just wasn't there, and I'm waiting for the Nismo. That'll be good. So this car just checks all the boxes, and I think price-wise, value-wise, this is a car very well worth buying, especially in the short term, and even in the long run. I mean, this thing is just brilliant to drive, and I have no complaints. So there's everything about why exactly I decided to ditch the Z and go for this. Hopefully the Nismo comes out and it is an absolute monster of a car. I really, really hope it turns this car up a notch, because that is a big benchmark. Oh man, hope you all enjoyed today's video. And the new Supra is gonna be awesome. You can't do that in the Z. This thing handles so good. It is a completely different league of a car when you truly drive them as much as I've driven them. Oh, this thing is so worth it. I'll see you on the next video.